Today's lesson is Dialogue Focus, Shopping for Vegetables and Fruit. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we've got a conversation between Julia and Mark. And evidently, in our dialogue focus, they are going shopping for vegetables and fruit. I don't suppose they're going shopping for meat products or dairy products, but specifically here, they're shopping for vegetables and fruit. Maybe they are vegetarians.
Maybe they are. We don't really know that. All we know for now is that Julia and Mark are international students and they're studying cooking because they are in the same cooking class. So they are visiting a farmer's market to pick up some ingredients, some fruit and vegetables for their dishes, the dishes that they have to prepare for class.
Indeed. So again, that's what they are doing today. So let's find out what they talk about when they go to the farmer's market to pick up some ingredients for the dishes. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson for today one time.
Shopping for vegetables and fruit. Selecting ingredients. Julia and Mark are international students in the same cooking class. They are visiting a farmer's market to pick up some ingredients for their dishes.
So, what are we in charge of for cooking class today?
I'm in charge of a vegetable side dish, so I'm making sautéed mixed mushrooms. You're supposed to be in charge of appetizers. Didn't you pick what dish you want to make yet?
Nah, I prefer to browse first. Let's get what you need, and meanwhile, I'll see what my choices are. What kind of mushrooms do you need?
I need cremini, shiitake, portobello, and white button mushrooms. Plus, I need a yellow onion, garlic, and parsley.
大家好，首先我们看到的单字是 ingredient。这个字当作名词，它有烹调的食材、原料或是要素的意思。所以我们可以说 To make this special cake, you need about 12 different ingredients. 为了做出这个特殊的蛋糕，你需要12种不同的食材。或者也可以说 Molly read the list of ingredients printed on the cookie box. Molly 读了印在饼干盒上的原料表。再来，我们看到的单字是副词 meanwhile。代表与此同时或是在此期间的意思。例如 Anita went to the mall and meanwhile her husband took a nap. Anita 去逛了百货公司，在此期间她的老公小睡了一下。另外还可以说 You wrap the gifts, meanwhile I'll start making the cake. 你包装礼物，同时我开始来做蛋糕。
Okay, everybody, let's talk first about the title here. We are shopping for vegetables and fruit. Now, I must say that this is something that is very difficult for learners of English to understand, especially when we talk about count nouns and non-count nouns. Vegetables, well, that word is countable, but for some reason, fruit is non-countable. So you'd have to say, how many vegetables did you buy? And then you'd have to say, how much fruit did you buy? You can't say how many fruits. That's wrong. You have to say how much fruit. But then for vegetables, you can actually count those. That's pretty confusing, isn't it?
Yes, it is pretty confusing. But I think sometimes you can also say fruits when you're talking about different types of fruits. You might say, I bought some fruits at the market. I bought some grapes and I bought some apples. Or when you're talking about different types of grapes, you can say these fruits are grown in this state, in the state of California. So that's one instance where fruit can be used in the plural noun.
As a countable noun, but most of the time it is non-count. So you'd have to say, how much fruit do we need to buy? Oh, we need to buy a dozen apples or 2 watermelons or something like that. So again, we've got this cooking class. So here in part 1, we are selecting ingredients. So those are like parts of something, especially if we're talking about cooking a dish.
Right. They're things that are used or combined to make something. like a type of food. So if you want to make an omelet, for instance, one of the main ingredients you'll need is eggs. You'll need eggs to make an omelet. But ingredients can also be used in situations that aren't food-related. You might say something like, a key ingredient to success is patience and hard work.
I would agree with that. Patience and hard work are ingredients in success. But here we're selecting or picking out or choosing ingredients for some kind of dish that they are going to cook. So here it says Julia and Mark are international students in the same cooking class. So they are from other countries other than the country they're studying in, and they are visiting a farmer's market to pick up some ingredients for their dishes. And here, dish, of course, is not referring to the actual plates and bowls and stuff. Dish can also refer to the actual food itself. Yes, gongbao jiding or gongbao chicken is one of my favorite Chinese dishes. But here, they're going to a farmer's market. Do they have farmer's markets here in Taiwan?
They do. I have been to some farmers markets here in Taipei. Usually they take place on weekends.
Okay, and for the most part, though, people buy their vegetables from traditional markets, but there are farmers markets here and there where the farmers actually come into the city in one particular place and sell things. Usually, they sell things that are not so readily available in traditional markets. So here, Mark begins the conversation. He says, so, what are we in charge of for cooking class today? So it's kind of interesting. He says, we are in charge of something, which means they are responsible for something. They have a job or they have a task that they need to do for the class.
Yes, it seems that Mark and Julia can't cook whatever they want because Julia is in charge of a vegetable side dish. So she has to make a side dish that's based on vegetables. And Mark has to make an appetizer because he is in charge of appetizers.
So that's what Julia says here. I'm in charge of a vegetable side dish. It's not the main dish, like a steak or something, or a fish fillet or whatever. But it's the side dish, the vegetable that is served along with the main dish. And she says, so I'm making sautéed mixed mushrooms. Now, Helen, I never studied French in school, but I know that this word is pronounced sautéed. If I'm using English pronunciation rules, I'd probably say sautéed, but no, that's wrong. This is the French pronunciation, sautéed. And what does that mean? You kind of fry it in some kind of oil or something?
I believe so. I think when you saute something, you use butter or oil to cook vegetables, meats, pieces of meat, or whatever you'd like, and you cook it quickly in a pan.
Yes, like a frying pan or something like that. Maybe over low heat. That sounds tasty, actually. I'm a big fan of mushrooms. And then Julia goes on to say, you're supposed to be in charge of appetizers. So you're supposed to be in charge. That means that is your responsibility. You're in charge of the appetizers. And an appetizer is something you eat at the beginning, right?
Yeah, an appetizer is something that you eat before the main course. So it's supposed to make you more hungry. When you eat an appetizer, you look forward to eating the main course.
Yeah, sometimes those appetizers are so tasty that I eat too many of them, and then it spoils my appetite, and then I don't want to eat the main course. But here, Julia's got a question here. Didn't you pick what dish you want to make yet? So she's asking this in the negative. She could say, did you pick what dish you want to make yet? Did you decide what you're going to cook? But she assumes that he already is supposed to know that. But she's surprised that it sort of sounds like he hasn't decided. So weren't you supposed to do that? Weren't you supposed to do that? Didn't you pick what dish you want to make yet? You were supposed to. It sounds like you haven't.
Apparently, Julia and Mark have different approaches to cooking. Julia already knew what she wanted to make, so she went to the farmer's market looking for mushrooms. Mark, on the other hand, doesn't know yet what he wants to make for his appetizers, so he wants to browse first. He wants to see what is available at the farmer's market before deciding what to make for his appetizers.
He wants to browse and look around, and then he says, let's get what you need. And meanwhile, at the same time, I'll see what my choices are. What kind of mushrooms do you need? So she can do one thing, and then while she's doing that, he will do something else. That's what the word meanwhile means. It just means something happening at the same time.
And Julia says, well, I need to buy many different types of mushrooms. I need cremini, shiitake, portobello, and white button mushrooms. These are all different types of mushrooms, and I'm sure when she sautés them all together, it'll produce a really interesting and delicious vegetable side dish.
Wow, I didn't know there were so many different kinds of mushrooms there, but these are all some of the ingredients that she needs to prepare her vegetable side dish for their cooking class today. Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the second part. We'll listen to it first.
So, have you decided yet?
I saw some yellow squash, zucchini, and bell peppers. If I buy tortillas and cheese from the grocery store, I can make grilled vegetarian quesadillas.
Sounds good. May I suggest making salsa as well?
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm up for trying something new.
第二部分我们看到的单字是 vegetarian， 这个形容词是素食的意思。例如 The restaurant's vegetarian options include salads and tofu burgers. 这间餐厅的素食餐点有沙拉和豆腐堡。除此之外，这个字也可以当名词，指素食者。因此可以说 Some people become vegetarians because they do not agree with killing animals. 许多人是因为反对杀害动物而变成素食者。
Okay, so here's what happens in the second part of today's lesson. It says, after Julia has picked up what she needs. Okay, this is what they say after she has gone out to find those mushrooms and the onion and the garlic and the parsley. So Julia has a question for Mark. So, have you decided yet? Have you decided what you're going to cook for your appetizers?
And Mark says, I saw some yellow squash, zucchini, and bell peppers. If I buy tortillas and cheese from the grocery store, I can make grilled vegetarian quesadillas. So it seems Mark is going to make a Mexican dish.
Exactly. That sounds pretty tasty to me. I'm a big fan of Mexican food. So, of course, if you're going to cook some Mexican food, you need to buy tortillas, which, of course, are flat little pieces of bread. You can have them made from flour or from corn. I love them both. And, of course, you can put some ingredients inside them with the cheese, and you fold it over, and that will give you a quesadilla. But if it does not have any meat in it, then it is a vegetarian quesadilla.
Yes, it seems that Mark and Julia are both vegetarians. That's what the dialogue seems to suggest, because they have not incorporated any meat in the dishes that they will be preparing.
Right, and of course there are different kinds of vegetarians out there, but here the word vegetarian is being used as an adjective. For example, I could say, I would like to eat vegetarian food today. I don't want to have a hamburger or steak or fried chicken or anything like that. So he says he's going to make grilled vegetarian quesadillas. And Julia says, hey, that sounds good. It sounds tasty. It sounds yummy. May I suggest making salsa as well? Or in addition, could you make that also in addition to making those grilled vegetarian quesadillas? Now, salsa, that is just the Spanish word for sauce. But when people say salsa, they usually mean a kind of Mexican sauce.
It's a Mexican sauce that is usually spicy and made with tomatoes, I believe.
tomatoes and other spices as well. If you've never had it before, it probably is going to taste quite strange, and it might be a little too spicy for you, so maybe you can pick a mild salsa at the beginning. But in any case here, Mark says, oh, that's a great idea to make my own salsa. And he says, I'm up for trying something new. Of course, if you're up for something, that means you're willing to try something that you haven't tried before. So indeed, it sounds like he's going to make quesadillas with salsa. Okay, everybody, let's move on now to part 2. We are choosing fruit. Let's listen.
Choosing fruit. After buying their vegetables, Mark and Julia wander to some fruit sellers and decide to plan dessert.
Hey, do you think we should pick up something for dessert?
Sure, why not? Let's get some fruit and make our own ice cream.
I wish I could, but unfortunately I'm lactose intolerant.
Don't sweat it. I know a great vegan recipe.
Vegan? How on earth can you make ice cream without any dairy?
The key is to use frozen bananas as a base. You put the bananas and other ingredients in a blender and you get vegan ice cream.
Cool, I'd like to try that. Summer is berry season, so let's get some blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries. We can make mixed berry ice cream.
Perfect! Now we'd better get going or we'll be late for class.
第3部分我们看到的单字是动词 wander， 代表闲逛或是漫步的意思。例如 Michael wandered the streets in the city looking for a coffee shop. Michael 在市区里闲逛，寻找咖啡店。另外也可以说 I wandered around in the market for an hour. 我在市场闲逛了1个小时。今天最后一个单字我们看到的是 blender， 这个名词有搅拌机的意思。例如My mother bought a new blender in order to make cups of fruit juice every morning. 我妈妈为了每天早上要制作果汁而买了一台新的搅拌机。另外，这个字去掉字尾 er 就会变成动词 blend， 表示混合、融合的意思。像是 The movie blends elements of action and comedy. 那部电影融合了动作片和喜剧的元素。
So welcome back, everyone. In this part of the dialogue, we see that Mark and Julia have already bought their vegetables and they are in the fruit section of the farmer's market and they're deciding what kinds of fruit to buy for dessert.
That's right. So after buying the vegetables, Mark and Julia wander to some fruit sellers in the farmer's market, and they decide to plan dessert. Of course, dessert is something sweet that you have after a meal in Western cooking. You don't really do that in Chinese dining. It's very common in Chinese dining to have some kind of fruit after a meal, but in Western cooking, it's common to have something sweet, like a piece of cake or a pie or something like that. So I guess they're going to look for something to make a dessert with. And in order to find those ingredients, they need to wander around the market. To wander, that just kind of means to walk around without any plan.
Yes, when you wander around a place, you go from one point to another without really a purpose. But wandering is also a great way to get to know a place because when you wander around a place, you might notice things that you normally would not notice.
Yeah, when I first came to Taipei, of course, I wandered around the city. I walked all the way down Zhongxiao East Road and I ended up in Wanhua. I got lost, of course, but I didn't care because I was exploring the place. It was pretty easy to get on a bus and get back to where I was staying. So here, in any case, here, they're wandering around the market, just kind of browsing around, looking at different kinds of fruit, and they're trying to figure out, what are we going to make for dessert? So Julia has a question. Hey, Mark, do you think we should pick up something for dessert? Should we buy something that we can use to make a dessert?
And Mark says, sure, why not? Let's get some fruit and make our own ice cream. Now, this suggestion surprises Julia a bit.
Exactly. She says, I wish I could get some fruit to make our own ice cream, but unfortunately, I'm lactose intolerant. Lactose, I believe, refers to sugar in milk. And if you're intolerant, that means you just can't handle it. You can't take it. So that's why a lot of people can't drink milk because they are lactose intolerant.
Yes, when you're lactose intolerant, you might feel pain in your stomach or you might get gassy if you drink milk or eat milk products.
And Mark says, don't sweat it, which is kind of a slang way of saying, hey, don't worry about it, no problem. He says, I know a great vegan recipe. A vegan is a very strict kind of vegetarian. They not only don't eat meat, but they don't eat dairy products as well, like milk and cheese. They don't eat that as well. And a recipe, of course, is a set of instructions on how to cook something. And Julia says, vegan? How on earth can you make ice cream without any dairy? Yes, dairy, of course, includes milk, and you need milk to make ice cream. So just how can you do this? How on earth can you do that? It seems impossible.
Julia doesn't understand how it's possible to make ice cream without milk or without any dairy products. So she is very surprised at Mark's suggestion. And Mark replies that there is actually a way to make vegan ice cream.
That's right. He says the key is to use frozen bananas as a base. That's true. If you freeze bananas, they kind of taste like ice cream. You put the bananas and other ingredients in a blender, and you get vegan ice cream. What an idea. That's so cool. A blender, of course, is a kind of device that mixes things together. Julia says, cool, I'd like to try that. Summer is berry season, so let's get some blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries. Those are different kinds of berries. Strawberries, of course, are quite common here in Taiwan. We can make mixed berry ice cream. Ooh, that sounds so good. Mixed with bananas and raspberries and blueberries. My mouth is watering right now. I'm drooling.
That does sound absolutely delicious. I wouldn't mind some mixed berry ice cream right now.
Does sound good. And Mark finishes the conversation by saying, perfect. Now we'd better get going. We better move it. We better get back to the class or we'll be late. So they've got their ingredients and they're ready to be chefs. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。对话里面两位主角 Julia 跟 Mark 一起上同一堂烹饪课，那他们有各自要负责的料理，现在正在挑他们要用的食材。 Julia 就对 Mark 说， You're supposed to be in charge of appetizers， 你应该是负责开胃小菜。好，这边介绍两个文法重点。首先我们来学习 be supposed to 的用法。Be supposed to 表示应该怎么样，那么后面是接原形动词。好，第一种用法是用来表达预期会发生的事，它用来表达说预期啊，或是认为某人或某事物应该会怎么样。那这时候它的 be 动词是用现在式。举例来说， We're supposed to be at the airport at 11 a.m. 我们应该要11点到机场。好，第二种用法是表达过去预期会发生的事，可是实际上并没有发生。那这是用来表达某人或某事物原本应该怎么样，却没有怎么样。好，那这时候 be 动词我们是用过去式。举例来说， The train was supposed to arrive 15 minutes ago. 火车应该要15分钟前就抵达，可是它误点了。第三种用法，它是表达现在或未来通常会有的状况，或者是做某事的正确方法，用来表达说某人应当怎么样。举例来说， You're supposed to respect your elders. 你应该要尊重长辈。好，下一个介绍的是 in charge 的用法。in charge 它表示负责、掌控，像是 Who's in charge? 这就表示说，是谁在负责的啊？谁是负责人啊？那么 in charge 后面还可以接介系词 of， 然后再接名词或动名词来说明负责的事物、掌控的事物。举例来说， Who's in charge of setting up the grill? 是谁要负责架烤肉架的呢？好，接着读到 Mark 提议说要做冰淇淋，但是 Julia 她有乳糖不耐症。Lactose intolerant 就是乳糖不耐症， 如果同学们想要表达说我有乳糖不耐症，你就可以说 I am lactose intolerant。 好，那么接着 Mark 对 Julia 说 Don't sweat it， 意思就是别担心，它是一个口语用法。动词 sweat 表示流汗，那在这个用法当中 sweat 它就有担心烦恼的意思，所以下次呢，身边有朋友在为某件事情担心着急的时候，你想要安慰他安抚他，你就可以说 Don't sweat it， 意思就相当于 Don't worry about it。 好，那除了这两句，你还可以说 Take a chill pill。Pill 呢是指一般口服的药丸或是药片，然后你叫人家去吃一颗冷的药丸，就是要人家冷静下来放轻松的意思。好，那么以上是今天的重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Ingredient. The ingredients in this recipe include sweet potatoes and bananas. Meanwhile. Please vacuum the living room. Meanwhile, I will wash the dishes. Vegetarian.Does this restaurant offer any vegetarian dishes? Wander. Ray wandered around the store while his girlfriend looked at dresses.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.